6 p.m. here in Cairo, time for our news bulletin. I'm Mahisi Rabian. We'll start with a look at the headlines. Egypt stresses its full support for the new Sudanese government. Egyptians flock on public parks celebrating third day of Eid al-Adha. And UAE plays down rift with Saudi Arabia and urges for Yemen dialogue. Welcome back. Those were the headlines. Now the news in full. Wrapping up a two-day meetings of representatives of Sudan's Freedom and Change Alliance in Cairo, Egypt reiterated its full support for the new Sudanese government in pursuit of realizing the aspirations of the Sudanese people. Egypt also emphasized holding continued contacts with all forces in Sudan and neighboring countries, as well as key nations in the region, in order to achieve Sudanese peace, security and stability. It elaborated that participants agreed on reviewing the outcome of their meetings in Cairo with leadership in Khartoum. Egypt is hosting these meetings in the framework of its supportive stance to Sudan's proposed constitutional charter, due to be signed on the 17th of August. As the sunrise emerged in the third day of Eid al-Adha, or the Feast of Sacrifice, almost 2.5 million pilgrims continued performing the stoning of the devil ritual, the last major ritual of the annual pilgrimage. Under the watchful eyes of security forces, waves of pilgrims carrying pebbles in the scorching heat made their way across Mina Valley near Mecca in western Saudi Arabia to symbolically stoning the devil. Muslim tradition holds that pilgrims must throw 7 stones each at a pillar representing Satan on the first day of Eid al-Adha, following 2 days of prayer and meditation. Marking Eid al-Adha, or the Greater Bayram, Egyptians kept flocking on public parks nationwide to celebrate the occasion. Meanwhile, the Interior Ministry beefed up security measures and plans, with police forces deploying on highways and in key squares across the nation to secure the festivities. The United Arab Emirates has downplayed a rift with Saudi Arabia over Yemen after separatists took control of Aden, that was the base of the Yemeni government. The remarks came as Abu Dhabi's Crown Prince Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan met King Salman bin Abdulaziz and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Mecca in an apparent effort to stop further damage to their alliance that would boost the Yemeni Houthi militant and their backer Iran. Sheikh Mohammed said that his country and Saudi Arabia call on conflicting Yemeni parties to prioritize dialogue and reason for the interests of Yemen. He asserted that ties between the two Gulf states remain strong, and they would adamantly confront any powers that threaten the regional security. Iraqi Foreign Minister Mohammad Ali al-Hakim has said that his country rejects any Israeli participation in a naval force to protect shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, at the heart of tensions with Iran. Tensions have escalated in past months, with drones downed and tankers mysteriously attacked in the Gulf and nearby waters. Washington and its Arab allies in the Gulf have accused Iran of carrying out the tanker attacks, which Tehran denies. The United States has since sought to assemble an international coalition it says is to guarantee freedom of navigation in the Gulf. A highly placed Gibraltarian government source denied today an Iranian news agency report which said that the Iranian oil tanker Grace 1 would be leaving the British overseas territory soon. The British Royal Marine seized the tanker on the 4th of July off the coast of the British Mediterranean territory of Gibraltar on suspicion of violating the EU sanctions by taking oil to Syria, which Tehran denies. Iran's semi-official Fars news agency quoted unidentified Gibraltarian authorities as saying that the tanker would be freed later today. Earlier, Gibraltar said it was seeking to de-escalate the situation. Hundreds of flights were cancelled or suspended at Hong Kong's airport today as anti-government protesters staged a second disruptive sit-in at the sprawling complex. All check-ins were cancelled this afternoon after thousands of protesters made barricades using luggage trolleys to prevent the passengers from passing through the security gates. Scuffles broke out between the protesters and the travelers who pleaded to be allowed past. The UN's rights chief voiced concern over the police force used against the protesters and called for an impartial probe. The Russian National Weather Service said today that radiation levels were up to 16 times the norm in nearby town after an explosion at the Russian missile testing site. The explosion at the Arctic facility on Thursday killed 5 scientists with Russia's nuclear agency, which later confirmed they were involved in the testing of the new weapons. More victims were hospitalized. The Weather Monitoring Service said that the levels were higher at 6 out of 8 of its stations in Severodonetsk, in a town about 30 kilometers from the test site. However, it affirmed that levels returned to normal after 2.5 hours. And to the world of business and economy, and we'll start with the international stock market, where the stock markets rallied on Tuesday, and President Donald Trump delayed the traffic on electronic goods from China, giving investors hope for some detent in the U.S.-China trade war. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 1.7%. The board-based S&P 500 climbed 1.7%, and the tech composite index jumped 2.1%. In Europe, the London FTSE 100 was up 0.4%, Germany's DAX 30 rose 0.8%, and Paris CAC 40 increased by 1.3 percentage points. Germany's oil company Wintershall Dea said that it is expanding its presence in Egypt with $800 million investments in 2019 and 2020. Europe's leading company said that it has prepared a plan to expand its work in Egypt, which targets providing products of more than 800,000 barrels per day of gas and oil daily to all its concession areas. Wintershall's president highlighted that Egypt's petroleum industry has witnessed a great boom and has achieved progress in various oil activities. U.S. Treasury Department said that the budget deficit widened to $867 billion for the first 10 months of the current fiscal year, as spending grew more than twice as fast as tax collection. The Treasury Department added that the deficit through July is up to 27% from the same period the year earlier. Spending rose 8% to $3.73 trillion, and tax revenues rose 3% to $2.86 trillion. The current shortfall exceeds the full-year deficit for fiscal year 2018, which was $779 billion. China's Ministry of Commerce announced today that foreign direct investment (FDI) into the Chinese mainland expanded 7.3% year-on-year to 533.14 billion yuan in the January-July period. In terms of the US dollar, FDI inflow grew 3.6% year-on-year to $78.8 billion during the period, the ministry said. The FDI in July alone reached 54.82 billion yuan, up 8.7% year-on-year. During the past 7 months, a total of 24,050 new foreign-funded enterprises were founded. The FDI from countries participating in the Belt and the Road initiative grew 5% in the first 7 months of the year 2019.